been 1 year since Kevin Cornett became the Isle of Palms police chief. Today, I talk with him 1 year later for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Chief Kevin Cornett, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Heard a lot of great things about you. I'm excited to be able to talk to you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Glad to hear that. Obviously, you are the police chief of the city of Isle of Palms. And I know just recently, and according to WCBD, on Friday, the Isle of Palms City Council passed an emergency ordinance 2020-10, which requires the wearing of masks or face covering while inside any retail or food establishment, food service establishment, that is. The ordinance does not require the face coverings to be worn on the beach. And I'm wondering, Chief, it's been a day now since the ordinance has been passed. What has that been like for your department?
Really not a lot changed. So typically throughout Wednesdays are not so busy for us, so we didn't have a lot of calls. Now, today would be the true way for us to view how that's going to go. Thursdays will build up into tomorrow. Tomorrow we're expecting to have a large crowd on the island, and that's where we're concerned. You know, it's the enforcement of the face mask ordinance is very difficult in general, just because, you know, there's constitutionality concerns and things like that. And our hope is that we don't have to write a single ticket for it. The hope is that we can say, hey, for your safety, for the safety of everybody else, put your mask on, you know, do what we're asking you to do, just to keep everybody safe.
Absolutely. And I know that obviously in the ordinance it says a non-compliance is a civil, not criminal infraction, punishable by a fine up to $25. Let me ask you this, Chief. Why isn't the fine higher?
So I think what they're trying to do is they're mimicking our smoking ordinance. And because it's a civil fine, I think they were just keeping it to something that's already been established, that's been proven to be effective and constitutional. And so I think that's really why they kept it that way. And all we would do is write a municipal ordinance summons, not even the same type of ticket that you would get on a traffic stop. It's a municipal summons, and you go in front of the judge, and it's just a $25 fine.
And I know obviously repeat offenders may be subject to, quote, the suspension or revocation of any occupancy permit or business license issued to the business where the repeat violations occurred. Additionally, repeat violators, that is, may be, quote, declared to be a public nuisance, which may be abated by the city of Isle of Palms by restraining order, preliminary, and permanent injunction, or other means provided by the laws of this state. What is considered public nuisance in the city of Isle of Palms?
So what they're looking at with that public nuisance would be that they are creating an atmosphere that is not providing for the safety of everybody that's going in. I really don't see that happening. And when they're talking about that part, that is specific to the business employees that have to wear the masks, especially in the restaurant business, because in the restaurants, the customer is not expected to wear a mask to eat or while they're eating. My kid tried to come up with a great way to do that, and it defeated the purpose of the mask. But you know, we can't expect people to wear those masks when they're sitting down to eat. So we are expecting the employees and the businesses to ensure that they're wearing those masks to protect their customers and their employees.
And I know, let me reread that again, because it says, additionally, repeat violators may be declared to be a public nuisance, which may be abated by the city of Isle of Palms by restraining order, preliminary, and permanent injunction, or other means provided by the laws of this state. What are the other means that you are abiding by?
Yeah, for us, the only thing we would put anything in that category for would really be the business license. So those businesses that have the businesses that are not enforcing it or not enforcing their employees to where it could lose their business license or something along those lines. As far as the police department goes, all we do in those instances is we document that we've had a business that has not been compliant, and they have done so on numerous occasions, and we turn that over to the business license official, and they would go from there with any other injunctions. But the hope, again, is that we don't have any of that ever happens. I don't foresee it happening.
And I was just interviewing Gary Santos for the town of Mount Pleasant on just Tuesday over at Moultrie Middle, and he basically says, hey, we only have one code enforcement officer for 93,000 people. How's that situation on the Isle of Palms?
So for us, we would use our beach service officers, which are also the same people that we use to enforce parking and other ordinances along the beach. Our officers could also enforce it. But what we have instructed our staff to do with face masks from the police department is really to do an educational approach, not trying to go out and hammer away tickets, really just to remind people that we want you to be safe, we want you to wear the mask.
And you talk about safety. Obviously, you just mentioned this a second ago, but today is going to be one of your busiest days, along with tomorrow, which is technically a holiday, bank holiday.
Cool.
And of course, Saturday is 4th of July. What is your plan to tackle the crowds and protect everyone else?
Our message to everybody has really been surrounded by that, hey, maybe this is that 4th of July, that the best approach is to stay home and have a backyard barbecue with your family and enjoy the festivities there. We see a lot of people that want to come to the beach on these busy weekends, and the crowds just get so large. Our concern would be that they're not able to maintain social distancing and that we would have a spread of COVID-19 because of that. So we're really asking people to stay home. Remember, the beach has been here for years. It's going to be here after the 4th of July. You don't have to come on the weekend. You can come during the week. We want you to be here. We want you to visit our businesses. We want you to come to our beaches, but we want you to do it maybe in the safest way that you possibly can. And sometimes that could be realizing that it's going to be a busy weekend and maybe you don't need to add to the crowd.
And let me go back to that ordinance. What exactly is the end date for this ordinance?
So the end date would really be when the emergency ordinance ends, which is a 60-day emergency ordinance, or if council were to decide that they wanted to end it sooner than that, they would just have to convene and redo the emergency ordinance.
And let me ask you this. What exceptions are interesting to you as a police chief?
Well, I think the ones that I found most interesting were kids. I'm a dad. I've got four little boys from age 4 all the way up to 11. And the exceptions were that you had to be under 2. They obviously don't expect you to wear a mask. And I couldn't imagine trying to get somebody 2 or younger to wear one. I fight with my 4-year-old to get him to do anything. We just have to stay home all the time. But that's the area where we're really, I think I see the most concern is that those kids, it's hard to get kids to wear those masks. And our approach at home has really been that because of all the masks and because of the spread, that we're going to keep our kids home just for our safety and everything like that. But that's my concern with the ordinance is how we're going to enforce the children, and are we, how is that going to look?
And I know this might be a silly question, Chief, but how much money is in the budget for enforcement and education on this?
So we did not add any extra money to the budget for this ordinance or any of our emergency ordinances. The reality is that I think using social media and the news, the media like yourself doing these stories, we're really hoping that the word gets out that way. We're not going to put signs out on the city premises, but some of our businesses have asked us to help develop a sign that's going to be relatively cheap to put in their businesses. It kind of reminds all of their customers and employees that there is an ordinance and they need to wear a mask, but it's going to be relatively cheap to do those things.
And let me ask you this too, Chief. Are all of these enforcing an arbitrary mandate in your mind?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, are you all enforcing an arbitrary mandate in your mind?
It's a difficult ordinance to enforce. I would say COVID-19 has been one of the most challenging times as a law enforcement officer because having to balance public safety versus constitutionality. And that is something that's always been in the forefront of my mind of, can we do these things? And then just some of these things we just kind of expect people to do. We expect people to want to be safe. We expect them to do everything they can to keep other people safe. I would hope that we would not have had to pass an ordinance, that people would have just realized that the numbers are on the rise and that there is a concern that maybe you don't show symptoms, but you may have the virus and be spreading it. So it's been an interesting thing with COVID-19 being a law enforcement officer and these types of emergency ordinances that have been passed.
And as we sit here right now, how many cases are there on the city of Isle Palms?
So last time I looked, I think we had 13, which is a small number. But when you look at the size of our island compared to some of the others, that could easily spread. We have an elderly community, and if that were to start spreading between them, those residents, that could be detrimental to the health of most of them. Most of them would fall into that high-risk category.
And let me go back to what you talked about earlier about the 4th of July holiday. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people. What is your comprehensive plan as far as parking and people getting there early?
So we're going to do our best to educate everybody using our social media. When the lots are full, we expect them to fill up very quickly. Typically by 11 o'clock, they're going to be full. And we're going to try to put some information out on social media. We're encouraging folks to use the SC511 cameras from DOT so that you can kind of see the traffic coming and going. There is a camera right at the base of the IOP connector and Palm Boulevard, and that's the best one to look at. You'll see how far back the traffic goes, and then you can look at the other one that's IOP connector and rifle range, and that will show you how far the traffic is backed up trying to get onto the island or off. And that's really what we're trying to do, is just educate people, realize there's going to be a lot of traffic. We'll get a lot of complaints about that, and there's not much we can do about it. You just have to sit in traffic. Traffic is traffic.
Exactly right. And you talk about being a law enforcement official. Obviously, I just didn't realize this, forgot about it, but it's been 1 year since you became the police chief of the city of Alva Palms. Who is Chief Cornett 1 year later?
I have a new perspective of what I thought police work would be here. You know, I've come from policing in the Midlands, and I knew it was going to be different here. It's a lot different. My phone rings just as frequently as it did in the Midlands, but it's for different types of issues. But I have enjoyed my year here. I've learned a lot about, I would say I've learned more about our economy and more about our ecosystem. And, you know, I've been able to help release sea turtles back into the wild. I've been able to be out here and see and educate people about alligators and educate people about Portuguese man-o-war and those different things. It's stuff that I never thought law enforcement would be doing, but I've really enjoyed them, and I've really enjoyed being a part of a close-knit community that has really shown support for their public safety, for police and fire and their city government, and just the Charleston area in general has been one of the best places I've ever lived. I've really enjoyed being down here, and a lot of great people and a lot of interesting things to go and learn and educate my kids about. They probably think I'm a nerd and I bore them. And it's been an interesting year. We've had the hurricane,
Yes.
we've had COVID-19.
Right.
We've had a ransomware attack on the city. We've had, you know, shortage in law enforcement personnel. And it's been a lot of challenging things, but I think we've come through it really well. And I'm more knowledgeable now than I think I've ever been. And there's definitely a lot more to learn, and I'm looking forward to it.
You talk about the shortage in law enforcement. Where are you with that on the Alva Palms?
So right now we have one command staff position that is vacant. We have one detective spot that is vacant, one patrol officer that is vacant, and then 3 beach service officer vacancies.
Wow. And go ahead.
The beach service officers are typically, they're hard to recruit for because it's a seasonal summer job. They're not sworn police officers. They're not volunteers. We pay them, but they come in during the summer and they do the things that most people don't realize that we have to do, like go out on the beach and fill in holes so that sea turtles don't fall in them and get trapped. You know, they go out and they help with signage. They help with parking enforcement. So they play a really important role. And when we're short-staffed in the BSO area, that can be troubling during the summer because that means we have to take our police personnel off of the road and get them to help with some of those other duties.
Chief Kevin Cornett, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.